Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It is Thursday, the 22nd of May. So, what are we going to be talking about today? Well, I'm going to go over a few things that I found yesterday prior to yesterday morning's video that we figured out, and how I approached the flow. And it's not conventional, but and I really appreciate you guys' comments, especially you, Jason. You're spot on it, and you give a lot of information, and you're a big help with me with the videos because sometimes I'm off in left field. So stay tuned. Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric, if you didn't already know it. And yes, this is the weekday, Monday through Friday. Today is Thursday, May 22nd. So what are we going to be talking about today? Well, I wanted to first go through a couple of the things that we found. And this goes kind of hand in hand with yesterday's video, if you didn't watch it, about how you want to have a good flow through the shop. One that, is the best flow for you. I mentioned two different flows that we do at the shop, and I mentioned a third that will bite you in the ass end, and that is taking the easiest jobs to get the money and then holding back on the worst or the hardest. And what I find is what ends up happening is you're taking and you're doing a lot of the quickest ones, and then next thing you know, it's 2 or 3 weeks and you still haven't touched the one that might need a whole new deck, as far as spindles, blades, pulleys. Instead of getting that in your flow, you've put them off. And now your customer is irate because they want their mower. And you haven't started yet. You don't even have the parts ordered yet because you don't know what you need. So that flow never works. You can try it, which we have numerous times, and it's backfired. So that flow is a given that usually doesn't work, all right? The best flow is first in, first out. Now, most of the time, if you're doing it that way, you're doing the first one, and if it's just a complete service and everything else is good, you can knock it in, knock it out. Not in such a way that you miss things. We're human. We're going to miss something. That's just bound to happen. But you want to have it the least amount of things that can go wrong. So you don't want to speed through it. And what do I mean by that? I mean, don't just start doing a quick service on it, kicking it out because you're looking for numbers. Because what'll end up happening is there might be a belt that's pretty bad on it that you overlooked. There could be blades that maybe one blade looked good, but the other two were shot. You see what I'm saying? You need to crawl underneath that deck. You need to take a putty knife. You need to clean that deck out. Look for problem areas so you can address them. If you start seeing cancer on the deck, clean it up, patch it, and then spray paint it so that it keeps not exposed to the elements. Reinforce it so in the good part of the steel so that it will last that customer longer. Yes, it takes a few extra minutes, but that deck will last a lot longer. Blades, if they're iffy, I've seen our shop before, Claude, say, well, I think they might last another year. And they're in sandy loam soil. And if you're in a clay bottom soil, they may. But in sandy loam, not a chance. Usually a new set of blades won't last a season in sandy loam. So not only do you have to know the customer's ground that they're mowing, which I do because I check to see how often somebody's coming back for blades. If I've got a customer that goes through two of the same set of blades, I ask them, Well, you must have sandy loam soil, right? A lot of sand in it. And yeah, yep. So after a while, you get to know your customer and how often they're going through blades, and ask those questions. And then just kind of make a mental note of it up here or in your notepad, with a name, sandy loam. So when their machine comes in for a service, that's the biggest thing you better check is those blades. But you need to slow down and do a good job. Don't be in such a hurry that you're willing to overlook what you should be looking at and what you should be doing. I've seen where we get to pushing and not grease the front ends for the steering part, not grease the decks, because we were trying to get them in and get them out. It's not worth it. Spend the extra 10, 15 minutes and do a good job. And your customer will appreciate you doing the minor things. And when it comes to that deck, if you don't know how to weld, my best advice is Harbor Freight. They sell the 110 wire feed welder. Get that. Get a shield, a good shield that auto darkens, and practice. Practice on pieces of metal on the table in your shop if it's metal, not a wooden table that catches fire. Done that before too. Just so you know. I'm such a wealth of information of things not to do. And that's why I'm trying to save you guys a little bit of pain. Even though I know that everybody has to go through things to experience them themselves, even though I'm telling them not to. So I'm just telling you what to look forward to, like your desk being on fire. But no, for the cost of a wire feed welder and buying the wire, buying the helmet, it's not a big expense. And you can spread it out over, 2 or 3 decks in the spring of the year to cover the cost. It may not cover your time until the second year of learning how, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist. The biggest thing about anything is like riding a bicycle. You got to get on it and you got to fail a couple times in order to become good at it. When you started riding a bicycle, were you excellent? I wasn't. I kept crashing. But after a while, I did my best so that I could avoid crashing. That's the key. And welding is the same way. Stick welding. A lot of times they're too hot. You got to turn the temperature down. Can it be done? Absolutely. It all depends on your rod that you're using and the heat that you have. And a lot of times with the stick welder, you have to do a little bit and let it cool. Do a little bit and let it cool because the deck is so thin. Where the wire feed, you can get away with a lot less heat. And again, take the metal that you have on your deck. Take the metal that you're going to try to patch your deck with. And then marry them on a practice area. Get it so that you can find the right heat for that. Once you find the right heat, make a mental note, write it in your notebook, on decks. This is where I want my wire feed welder to be. If you're welding up frame parts or something like that with the wire feed, you're going to have it a little hotter. And you got to prep the area. You can't just, do a quick blow off the crapola and then put a piece of metal and marry it. No. Sometimes what we end up doing is taking the deck right off the unit and putting them on sawhorses so you're not hunched over or on your knees everywhere else. So you can stand while you're doing it. And we do it right out in the yard. So once we have it up onto the sawhorses, we can then get all the grit clean out of the way, take a grinder, a handheld grinder, and just rough it all up so you've got some good clean metal. Go back far enough to find good metal. And then we also have a plasma cutter. And again, those aren't very expensive either. I mean, they are, but they aren't. I think our plasma cutter that I bought for the shop was around $200. And then I bought some extra tips. All you need is air and 110. No, those are 220 that I've got. And you can cut out the cancer, and then you can cut out the piece of plate that you want to use. And what we do is we keep the old decks around that have good parts to them that are still good. And you could take a plasma cutter and cut out a section that makes a good patch. Anything that you can find that's metal that you can cut and fit into that area will work. Usually the lighter it is, the better it is, so that it's matching the deck. But it doesn't have to be that thin. It can be a little thicker. Plasma cutter just cuts it a lot nicer. If you don't have that, a set of torches works just as well, but it doesn't give you a nice smooth square piece. And if your hands are like this, it's not going to be square anyways. I have to go like this. I put this hand over here, and then I bring it, and I do the same thing when I'm welding, so that I don't get that twitch while I'm welding or using the plasma cutter. But with going in and coming out and doing a good job will not only benefit you, the shop, but also the customer. You, the shop, will get a returning customer because you get their stuff in and out. How it benefits the shop is that you get that customer coming back. How does it benefit the customer? It benefits them that you took the time and were thinking about them long term. You were trying to protect them. And I can tell you, cutting a piece of metal with a plasma cutter, spending another 20 minutes with a grinder getting it all nice and cleaned up, another 10 minutes to weld it in place. Even at $40, a new deck without any parts on it is around $300 to $400. If you get a complete deck with all the spindles and everything else, you're talking $700 to $1,000. Yeah. So if that saves that customer, because most people, when the deck goes bad, they either sell it or they part it out and they go buy a new one. Now, some of my customers, what they've done is when the decks got bad, it gave them an excuse to get a new mower. And they had us take the deck off and make sure it had a trailer hitch, and they used it for a yard cart type mower that they could go around the yard and pick up crap. And they still had full use of it if the mower is still in good shape. If you got a customer that's looking for that, then patching his deck, he won't be as happy about it. But yeah, it ends up costing our customer, we usually bill for about an hour. And that's about what it takes me by the time I get everything prepped and done, take the deck off, do all the prep work, do the weld. The welding is the shortest amount of time. And then taking the time to put it all back underneath, rehang it, check everything, make sure all the belts are in place where they should be. Takes about an hour. And that's even, we bill for an hour with two of us, because a lot of times with me anyways, Claude helps me get the deck hung and everything. But back to how things went yesterday. First was that Troy bill I was telling you about that we had all ready to go back to the customer and went to do a cold start and it wouldn't start. And what a pain in the backside. We tried to, Claude emptied all the fuel out of it, thinking that might be a little bit of water in it, this and that. And on our trip to Messina, I had mentioned to him, because it was running around 80-85%. I said, maybe we can adjust the valves to get it up higher than that. And that way, it's more apt to pick up the fuel. Maybe it's having an issue there. So while another customer brought their piece of equipment, they were trying to do a soil screener, and they were trying to figure out how to hook up a Predator engine. So while Claude talked him through that in the front yard, I grabbed my tools and I took because you got to take the top cover off. You have to take the exhaust guard off. You have to take the exhaust off just to get at the valve cover on those single cylinder Kohler engines. There's no way out. It is a lot of work. And that's why he was avoiding adjusting the valves on it. But it took me about 20 minutes to get everything apart. And what I found out right off the bat was there was some play in the valves. And you're going to get play, all right? After a while, you should be adjusting the valves on every service, to be honest with you. Every year, if that mower gets used any amount of time, it's good to pull the valve cover and, get and check the clearance on your valves and adjust accordingly. So once I had it all tore apart, spark plug out, top dead center, Claude went ahead and adjusted the valves for me. And what we found with his simple adjustment that he did, he was able to bring it up to almost 112. And that 112 was what it needed. It needed that to pull the fuel. It wasn't getting enough compression to actually pull the fuel because there was no fuel pump on it. It's gravity flow to the carburetor. And what it requires is enough compression to pull the fuel up into the chamber as well. And it wasn't getting that extra on a cold start. She took her right to death. How much more did I bill her? Zero. Because I told her it was ready, we were going to drop it off, and then we had that issue. Never call a customer until you've done a couple cold starts on it. And if you don't, like I didn't, that's what you shouldn't do, is you're going to eat it, or you should eat it. The last thing you should do is go back to the customer and tell them that you got to bill them more. Not going to happen. Best game plan is cold start it once or twice to see if it's going to have an issue. If it's going to have an issue, do that first before you call the customer. So one of the things like yesterday, we had pickup and drop-offs as well. And to start the morning off, I had loaded a compact tractor with a front end loader and backhoe onto my trailer and left it on the truck the night before last because I knew I had to take it back yesterday morning. So that was the first thing. So what I ended up doing was to get some exercise. I walked from the house to the shop, which is roughly about 1.5 miles, 2 miles. I did it with only stopping 3 times, but I'm on a health kick now. I'm living on the wild side, and it sucks. But I've been putting it off, and I noticed that I have a little bit more energy with doing that. Claude, he stopped at the house. He saw the truck still here with the trailer and the piece of equipment. And he had some meatloaf that he wanted me to try that he wrapped in bacon. Oh, God, that was to die for. I had that last night. So he checked the whole house thinking that maybe I was dead. He didn't think of it. I had walked to the shop, and I never mentioned to him the night before. But I decided, you know what, 5:30 I'm going to walk to the shop. So I walked to the shop. It took me about 20 minutes, half an hour. But we went and we dropped that one off. Then we had to go 38 miles the other direction to pick up another one. And wouldn't you know it, the winch, because it was a non-running tractor, the winch didn't want to cooperate. It got water into the control box. How it's supposed to be sealed unit, but it did. So we had to resort to having the customer hook a chain to the front of his non-running tractor and pulling it up with his running tractor. And if you saw his running tractor, I don't know why the hell he's monkeying around with an old Ford 8N when he's got a newer, bigger John Deere compact with a full cab. But he said he does all of his raking with it, and I understand that. You know, I've got a tractor that we usually hook onto the mower. I got a tractor that we hook to the baler, and one to do the raking. I've got 5 or 6 tractors. I leave one on the bale wrapper that we use for wrapping round bales. So we picked that one up and got it on the trailer and picked up another job because he has a couple cows he wants to have moved that he bought next week. And I told him just give me a couple days ahead of time so I can unhook the gooseneck trailer we pick up bigger tractors with. I'll hook onto the gooseneck cattle trailer that I have, and I can run over and do it for him. And he said, I'll pay you. And I said, of course you're going to pay me. I don't do it for free. Diesel's not free. But I was joking with him, and he knew it. You know, I'll take whatever he offers. I mean, he's going to be a good customer in the long run. He's a local boy that moved away years ago and lived in Arizona for most of his life. And now that him and his wife retired, they bought a cottage on the St. Lawrence. And then he bought this piece of property in the area they grew up. And he just playing is what I call it. He's got old, wait a minute, that's what I'm doing, just playing. Except for I told him I had down to 27 head. I had almost 60, but we downsized just before I got sick. Just before I went into the hospital, actually, because it's been going on for some time. So we got that tractor back to the shop. And I told Claude, I said, let's see if we can get some of these things knocked out. And he went on to the bigger project. That was the John Deere 1010 that the radiator had been nicked a few times. And then also he had told Claude, I didn't know, that he had shorted across on the coil on the wrong side. And we pretty well knew at that point he had burnt the points on the system by doing so. So Claude went to working on that, and I looked at that Husqvarna, the one I redid the whole deck on getting that home. We had picked up that and a steel trimmer at the same time. And that's the one I mentioned yesterday that had the front flat tires. So I told him, I said, you work on the ones that are more of a pain in the ass, and I'll see if I can't clear the yard of the stuff we can get out. So I pulled it up to my office up front, put the jack, took the tire off, broke it down, put a new tube in it, put it back on, did up the bill for just the mower, and I called the customer and I said, look, I got your mower done. It's all brand new deck on it. I'm not done with the trimmer yet. Do you want your mower back? And he said, absolutely. I said, all right, so I'll bring it out in the morning if you want. He said, I've got today off. Is there any way you could get that to me today? I said, I'll see you in half an hour. And he asked what the bill was, so I told him. He said, I'll have cash for you. So we went up and grabbed the trailer that I just unhooked, hooked it back up, the small trailer, loaded his on, went 21 miles to his place, dropped it off. I explained the issues with the trimmer, and that's why I gave you the option. If you wanted to wait for the trimmer in one bill, but the trimmer is giving me the pain in the ass. It's the one I mentioned yesterday about the return line vent that goes into the actual fuel tank. It pops down in. And they're hard to get out without popping them apart. But we replaced that because we kept getting fuel leaking. So he said, no, that's perfect. I said, I'm going to try one more thing with that friggin' trimmer. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to put it back together. I'm going to bring it out on my way through, drop it off, free of charge. That's how I'm going to work it. If I can fix it, you're going to pay for it. But if I can't get that sucker to fix, we got you on the mower. I'll give you the trimmer back and go find something else. So he thought that was a great deal. So that's what I mean by flow. It's easier if you have two guys where you can handle the bigger jobs together. And then when you're just standing there watching the other person, you could be doing other things to get the yard cleaned up. And that's what I was doing. I was allowing Claude to take on the bigger jobs, all right? And I was jumping around trying to clean the yard. If one came in just for a quick service, I was on it. where Claude was working on the stuff that first in, first out. And actually, when I jump in, that clears the stuff, and I'm unknown. So, which I should remain unknown because I don't do things as good as Claude does, but I know just enough to get myself into trouble. No, seriously, I'm not a mechanic. I never said I was, and never will say I am. There's certain things I can do, certain things I can't. Is it because I don't want to learn? No, I don't. There's some things I could care less about. And if you're a mechanic, it's because that's something that you enjoy doing with your hands. Taking something and making it work, getting it fixed, and being proud of it. And I never been that way. You know, I am a goal oriented where I like to see things done that I'm going to accomplish. But that accomplishment doesn't need to be repairing something. It could be, adding so many cows on, getting the hay in done, getting so many round bales up a day. That's my forte. Where Claude really doesn't care that much for the haying part of my business. So that's what I mean by having a good flow. If you got two guys where you can separate and have one working on the first in, first out, and the second guy working on the easiest and the hardest, that's the way to go. Especially if you're only showing as one mechanic at the shop. The other thing that we're running into a lot lately is people trying to get a hold of us to come to their property to do the work, but they aren't willing to cover the actual costs. And what do I mean by that? I mean, we've done this before, and maybe Jason, I don't know if you've tried it or not, but any of you guys that have tried this, let me know how it worked out for you. I'll let you know how it works out for us. Is they want us to come to their property. They'll even supply the tools to fix something on their piece of equipment, their tractor. Tractor is the biggest one. Can you come and work at our garage on our equipment? And the normal answer is no. No. Because what that customer doesn't understand is that, when we leave the shop, we're not losing one mechanic, we're losing two because I'm working on stuff. So now you got two people coming to your garage to work on your tractor. All right, so you're pulling two people away from work. You're also pulling two people away from the phone to get more work lined up, because people call, and if you don't answer, most times they won't leave you a message. You're also leaving two mechanics from the shop at 50, let's just round it off, $50 an hour. So that's $100 an hour that I'm losing at the shop if we're both, and that counts travel time. From the time we leave the shop till the time we get back. It's not how much time we spent on premise. It's the actual time it took us to get there and back. And a lot of customers don't want to pay that. They figure that you can come out and throw it together in half an hour and have it cost them around $50. It's not how it works. We started doing a show-up fee of $50 and then $50 an hour afterwards. And I told Claude, I said, we're going backwards. We're not charging to get there. We're not charging to get back. And sometimes that takes an hour. So there's 2 hours of travel time that didn't get billed. And we're losing out on work that we could have got had we answered the phone. So now when a customer asks me that, are you willing to come work on ours? I tell them no, but I got a winch on my trailer. I can winch it on. It's going to cost you $60 to $100 on that tractor to get it to my property with my piece of equipment and get it home. Once it's here, you're not paying for travel time. It's here. So we're going to be working on that, and you're going to get billed actual cost. Claude doesn't like it because if the owner is standing there over his shoulder, he's pushing Claude to get it done quicker to save himself money. Or adding their 2 cents and Claude losing his train of thought, which is easy for either one of us. In the comments, let me know if you have a shop and you've tried doing road calls and how well it turns out. Now, some of you guys that are doing the, I'm trying to find the right word, the mobile mechanic route. How's it working out for you? Most of you guys don't have a space anyways to home where you can house a lot of that equipment to work on. But do you find that when you're out doing that call that you always forget certain tools? You end up, you have to come back, order parts, and then go back out again to put the parts into it because the parts are never there. And you end up losing money if you don't bill accordingly. So on that note, you guys have a great Thursday. We'll see you here bright and early for the end of the week, Friday, which is tomorrow. You guys have a great Thursday.